Hello, good morning. I just recently finished the 100 Heads challenge for the first time, and I am so excited to show you how it turned out. So here we go. Please forgive me for not having video footage for all of them. So let's get started. First 10 heads. I wanted this spread to just start out being sketches. That's really all that my skill set was when I started my sketchbook, was just sketches. And so I wanted to just do what I knew at the time. This I started about 6 months ago. I know, I did not finish within the 10 days that you're supposed to finish it. However, I don't really care about that time frame because I still learned from beginning to end, and if you're learning and enjoying it, then that's all that matters, right? So in this spread, very sketchy, I was just trying to get used to the anatomy of a face to begin with. So sketchy faces until this one. She was my favorite sketch. I had just gotten my alcohol markers and I wanted to test them out on her. She was the very first alcohol marker portrait that I've ever drawn. There is a lot to be learned after this. So then when we get to 11 to 17, I am still in the sketchy phase, and I finished the sketchy phase through this page. And I realized that it just looks like a whole lot of sketches, not a lot of variety. So I decide, why not use my alcohol markers and test it out and try to learn how to use my alcohol markers on faces and use them to make cool bodies. And I tried to experiment a little bit with like a blue head or a pastel rainbowy type head. And then this happened and this happened, and his lips look purple and he looks a little bit dead. So then after I finished 17, I decided to draw other things for a couple minutes. Then I pick back up after about 5 or 6 pages. I start with 18. I'm still struggling at this point to render hair. I'm having a hard time finding shapes within the hair and finding just how to draw it other than just like scratchy movements, especially for short hair. So that's what I did here. I'm really proud of how his face turns out. 19, cool. 20, 21, 22 are somehow all the same face in my head. And then we moved to 23. I spent a lot of time on her hand and she turns, I'm really proud of that hand. 24, I remember not liking this at the time, but now that I look back on it, it has a certain charm, and what a cute guy. 25, and then 26. This guy looks like Edward Cullen's dad. Can't remember his name. And then I moved on to another 26 and didn't realize until about an hour ago that I did 2 26s. So of this 100 heads challenge, technically I've drawn 101. So 26, this is where I start to feel like the feminine energy. This is where I got to a lot of girls, and I love this spread. I feel I started to see like fun designs in her hair and her biting her lip and just not taking the nose too seriously. I don't know, something about this just has charm, and I love this page. Not so much this page, but this page. 27, I decided to just kind of experiment with like how I shaded her hair. I'm still not really seeing shapes in hair at this point, but I'm getting there kind of. Still not ready to learn exactly how to do hair. 28, one of my favorite portraits of all time. Her face shape and head shape was just so fun to draw. 29, her eyes are so dreamy, and they also remind me a little bit of my sister, so I'm partial to this one. 30, girl, I have been there. I have made that face a time or two in my time as a mother. She'll get better, I promise. 31, cool. I don't remember drawing this one. I have nothing to say about it. So then we move on to 32. These were like the first of the weird heads that I came across, like the clay figures. 32 and 33 came as a pair, I believe, and 32 is very long. As you can see by my ghost sketches, you can see that I tried really hard to get 32 to look normal, even though he's definitely not normal. 33 also does not match the reference photo at all. If you don't know what these guys were supposed to look like, you probably would say, oh yeah, they look pretty cool, but If you know what they're supposed to look like, you know that I'm so off. Then I moved to 34 and I had so much fun doing his jacket and like the little details about him. I worried a lot about like the fabric in his, I don't know, tie thing. 35, could not figure out for the life of me how to draw his beard. That fear has set in for me forever. So come future heads in this challenge, I'm gonna have PTSD from that one. 36, love this head. For some reason, there's just something about a good rectangle head on a dude that's so satisfying to me. Love how he turned out. After seeing these guys and how they did not match the reference photo at all in my mind, and I was still trying really hard to get them perfect, I wanted to see if I could actually get one perfect. So I spent a lot of time actually mapping out the face appropriately, and I used colored pencil for the first time to sketch. This was my first time actually trying super, 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 super hard. Guys, I could cry at how proud I feel of myself for this one specifically. I did not know that I could draw like this. This one will always hold a special piece in my heart. Looking back at it now that it's been 6 months from here, well, maybe like 5 months, there are definitely things that I could have done better, but I remember this being a turning point for my confidence. I love this guy. I love his mustache. I love the deep lines in his face. I love his eyes and the weathered texture of his soul. I don't know, somehow it just comes through. So then I was like, colored pencil must be the key. So I turned to do all of them colored pencil. And I'm like, yeah, colored pencil is definitely the magic ingredient here. So I'm just gonna do this for everything from here on out. Colored pencil. So I start with 38 and I start to really try to look at the hair and find the shapes in them and actually like focus on it. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out the hair for all of these. This one took me for a ride, I gotta tell you. It was hard, but also the payoff was great. So that was really cool. This one, I worried a lot about his hand. Also, I think it paid off. His head doesn't look like him. I think he's a famous guy, so I tried my best. In my head, I wanted all 4 of them to have an equal spot, but clearly I took up way too much room on the top, so I had to kind of condense her down to get her full head. I mean, she looks a little distorted. However, I have seen people that really look like her in real life, so is it really bad? I don't know. 42 through 44, these girls all were coming up next in the Pinterest page, and they all had like very princess energy to me. So I wanted to kind of give them their own princess page. So they each have a third of the page. Love this. This is one of the highlights of my sketchbook. She definitely is like, I think it's the brown colored pencil, I gotta tell you. Something about it is just magical. Another one of my all-time favorites, 44. So then I was having such a good ride with the colored pencil 1 tones that I wanted to see if I could do a colored pencil multi-toned. This is how it turned out. It's not bad. However, she looks nothing like the reference photo. I really enjoyed figuring out how to do the texture of her hair, and I think I did a good job. At least I do now. Maybe future me might say, no way, that sucks. You are a terrible person. But I also like how I did the gold stuff around her hair. Love that. This one was not a head. I did this for YouTube, and it's worth mentioning because she bled through to the back of the page and I put another head behind her. Now, I did her in a more simplified color tone or color palette than the previous girl because this one took me like 4 hours to finish, and I did not want to spend 4 hours on every head from here on out. So I tried to simplify her and make her colored without being really, really, really intensely time-consuming colored. So I colored her up a little bit, and then I was really displeased with the bleed through from the previous page. So I ended up going through with a light gray alcohol marker to try to pull her up a little bit and get her away from the background a bit. And I think it worked. I really like how the tears turned out. Are they tears? Blood? How the blood turned out? Good blood. So when I started out doing 47, I wanted to go back to graphite because the colored pencil was just getting way too, I felt burnt out and I felt like it was getting nowhere and I didn't know how to how to do it the right way. So I tried, got burnt out, and then I wanted to go back to a comfort zone type thing. So I went back to a graphite mechanical pencil. I remember after doing this sketch that my mother-in-law had gotten me a blending stick in one of my Christmas gifts a few years ago, so I pulled that out of storage. So I just went to town with it and I just blended the heck out of it, as I'm sure that we all do when we finally meet a blending stick. It really helped with the hair, getting the streaks down with the hair. I really enjoy how the ears and the hair around the ears turned out. Excellent. Lips are a little weird, need to figure that out. 48 I did on a YouTube video with you guys. I love the hands. So then after 48, I realized that I was really intimidated by all of the next heads that were in this challenge. They were all sculptures of really intense men crying into the heavens or being really angry at the world or just really emotionally sad, and I wasn't ready for that. So I colored a lot of things in between, gave it a month or two, and then I moved on to the hard heads. 49, he's crying into the heavens. I worked harder on his beard. This is, as we talked about before, the beard with the PTSD moment, remember? I tried harder this time. I was able to simplify it down in a way that made sense to my brain without having to add like be really good at hair yet. I think this is finally where it started to feel like, okay, I don't need to be really good at hair. I can make it look decent. And then 50, this guy's looking down. My little 2-year-old son came up next to me and tried to help me with a green marker. I will always remember that. 51, I wanted to try to simplify hair at this point and give hair texture to men in a way that wasn't just like, yeah, that was really cool. I like his eyebrow a lot. 52, don't have much to say about this one. I like his mustache, good nose. 53, his turban thing turned out really cool, love it, and his mustache was fun to go like up and down. 54, this was a lot of hair. So much hair. I am so glad to have finished that one. Wasn't so happy to actually do it, but to have finished it, glad it's done. This one was like a unrendered clay sculpture, like a in the process of, it felt like. I don't know if that's how it was supposed to turn out, but that's how it looked to me, very unfinished. So it was hard to get that onto a paper. 56, I drew a different picture here at first and I hated it so much. So I erased it and then drew over it with this orc man, and I love him. He's so pointy and he just looks mean, and that's a feat in and of itself, is to actually draw somebody who looks mean. Very pleased with that. 57, he actually looks like fur, and that's really cool. And then 58, his ears are big and go up, and his beard looks a lot like the other beard, but you know, simple, but also you can tell it's a beard. It's cool. 59, he looks like somebody that I should know, like in my real life, not like on a TV. So I don't know, that one's kind of giving me like, I love him, but I don't know why. 60, very, and also black eyes, ice hair, mean guy. 61, this one was hard, but also fun. The only guy with horns, I think, in the challenge. And it crops off like right here. So I had to figure out how to draw this and draw the shadows around it to match where, like if this horn is going this way, this horn must be going this way. And then how do I draw the shadows around that? You know, that was a lot of fun. I felt really proud of myself for how that one turned out, and I think it worked. I like his nose too. 62 is one of my all-time favorites. I love how he has a gigantic head and a tiny body, super cute. I also really like his suit. How his like tie and suit and shirt come together, perfect. So then I felt really confident with how these guys turned out, so I wanted to do a whole spread with my full effort. I took out my colored pencil because I know they're magical, and I went through and gave each one a single color, but instead of giving them like all the colors, all the effort for 100 hours, I decided to give one accent color to each head. These are some of my favorite heads. I love this guy, one of my favorites. I love just his eyes, and he looks very cartoony. He's got some, he's special, okay? 64, love how his mouth looks pursed, and also how I got like the same nature of the pursed nose and the pursed scars. I don't know, he looks really cool. This guy took 2.5 hours. That was nuts. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out where to put his ear because the split in the seam messed with my head. I had like an existential crisis trying to figure out where to put his ear, and I spent way too much time worrying about that. I'm so glad it's done. I still kind of think it should be a little further back. However, it's done and it's over, and I am happy about that. Also, I'm kind of glad that I put yellow in his teeth because it's really gross. This guy was less fun to me than the other ones, but also it was fun to try to get like the craters in his face. I guess you would call them pockmarks or something, not sure. They look really cool. I'm really happy about that. Cool mustache, again. I like facial hair. This one took a lot of time just getting like this stuff done. I think I could have done a better job at the time, but I was ready to be done with the spread that I was just like, okay, you're done. After I was done with all of the heads, I went in with the accent color and just kind of gave like a shape with the accent color. So green, yellow, yellow, brown, just to make it interesting. However, this spread took me 15-ish hours to finish, and I got completely burnt out. I felt like I gave it my all. I had nothing else to offer this challenge. So I unintentionally neglected this challenge and decided to just kind of leave it on the back burner and not think about it or do anything with it. I was like, oh, I'm almost done. 67, that's good enough, right? But then it started haunting me in my dreams that I didn't finish this challenge. I had put so many hours into this just to not finish it. That doesn't seem fair to myself. I need to honor the challenge and just finish it. So for 2 or 3 months, I don't do anything with this challenge, and I decide to just draw for me. In that time though, I feel like I grew as an artist and stopped worrying so much about perfection, and somehow that led to this page. I am so proud of this page. I went in with my magical colored pencils and decided to not give them any shadows and just work on the outsides, the outside lines of all of the heads. I see progress. This was just really cool to experience, is going from the beginning to getting to this and working on like the actual spread and the composition of the spread at this point. And this was the first one that I tried doing a background with, and I did that with you guys. Do you remember? So I started doing these heads, and she is one of my favorites. I love her eyes. They're so expressive. She's something special. And these guys, I like this one a lot. I started to not care so much about if the lines were in exactly the right spot, and I just kind of like let my hand spaz out with some of the wrinkles and stuff, and I think it looks really cool. I also love his gigantic ears. I did these guys with you. She's the only one who has shadow on her face, because if I didn't put the shadow down, she would have looked really odd. So I decided to put the shadow on to make her look more normal to herself. This one was a lot of fun too. I really like the Tim Burton type quality to this actual head with the gigantic head and the tiny body. We know I like that apparently with the other head that was one of my favorites. So yeah, then I moved on to this one. This one, since now I am almost done with the challenge, this is head 79, I decide all of the rest of the heads in this challenge, I pretty much have little to no interest in drawing. So I decide, let's make it interesting and do something that I've never done before. Let's test out different ways to use the mediums that I have. So I did blue Prismacolored pencil on these, and then after that, I went in with my Ohuhu colorless blender, and then I just blended the colored pencil, and while it was still kind of on the tip of my marker, then I went in and did like the blush and stuff. So cool. I cannot describe how much I love doing this technique, and I will probably always do this for the rest of my life. I think it's amazing. Very easy way to get something done and have it look really cool at the end, in the end too. But as I was doing this, I thought it gave off like a faux watercolor vibe. So this was me I wanted to see if I could get it to look kind of like watercolor. So I went around with pink and just kind of did some where I thought maybe splotches would go, and then just kind of, and yellow too apparently, and just kind of used my alcohol marker and swirled it around, and so cool. This one, he had gold on his face, and instead of drawing the gold, I just left it white and left it splotchy. So cool. This guy is another one of my all-time favorites. I love how he turned out. I was really, really scared to do him with all of his extra-ness to him, like his hat and his, goggles. However, he is one of my favorites, and I'm also really excited about how I did the line art for these. That's been something that I've been trying to find my own style in. So far, I think it's really cool. She looks like my niece. Also doesn't look like the reference photo, but she looks like my niece. So I wanted to see in this spread if I could use the same pencil as I did before and see progress. If I did it in the same style as I did with heads 1, 2, and 3, if I can see progress. I totally can. This is one of the girls that I was really scared of doing because her neck is all like broken, and she actually looks decent. Does she look like the reference? I'm not sure. However, she looks decent. This one, I wanted to make it exciting and kind of test I don't know, I was kind of getting cocky here, if I'm being honest. I felt like, oh yeah, I'm so much better than I was in 1, 2, 3. So let's see if I can draw in pen now. So I took out my red ballpoint pen and I decided to draw the heads in pen. And I gotta tell you, all of the eyes are wrong. I get the eyes wrong in every single one. Like this one, I started off with her. If you just saw that girl, where you would expect her eye not to be there, right? So that's fun. And then I worked on 89 after her. I think she's a duplicate girl. She's been in here before in a different pose. And then I did him, and his eyes are also the wrong height for each other, and his chin is super wonky. 91, she's supposed to be looking that way, but I decide after drawing her eyes weird that I'm just gonna have her be looking at me. So that's how I did her. 92, this is Gandalf. I'm the most proud of him of all of this page because I feel like I chose just the most important lines for him and somehow it turned out, and yeah, very cool. I also went in with blender after I was done with this, just to see if I could get my pen to bleed in the same way that I got the Prismacolor to blend around. So I did all of their hair in this method and just kind of got like this pink effect, and I think it looks really cool. So then we get to 93, and I want to see how good I can do. If I push myself really hard, what can I achieve? So I wanted to kind of test out my growth in different mediums all on one page so I can kind of see how they look side by side. 93, this is one of my favorite techniques in the beginning, was to just do a single head. I mean, the pink is bleed through, so don't worry about the pink. Just do a single head with a single color and have it be that, and he looks awesome. 94, this was my first time using watercolor pencils, and that took me for a ride also. That was challenging. I need to figure out how to get better at that. I like how he turned out though. I kind of ditched the watercolor, the water effect of it, and just kind of went in afterwards with the watercolors as pencils and just kind of fixed his face and stuff. And then I love how his beard and mouth turned out. That's super cool. And I also like how he takes up like the whole portion right here. Not really intended, however, very pleased with that. This girl, I wanted a second chance at the watercolor with this one, so I went in and did watercolor with her. So I decided to give it more pigment in the beginning than I did with this guy and give it more of an effort. Okay, so this is what the original head looked like on the 100 heads challenge, and it was cropped out right here. I didn't like proportion her out well on the page, and she had all this empty space, so I thought, let's just give her a body. So I'm pretty sure this girl is from a play. I found this character as different actresses wearing different clothes, and I kind of pieced together my favorite pieces of each actress's clothes and put them on her. I really like her outfit. I think she looks really cool and edgy and also circusy. This is how I imagine her hand to be. Now, this is not a very good hand. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not great at hands most of the time. So this is her hand. When I got to 96, I wanted to give my alcohol markers another go, because at the very beginning, remember, I tried alcohol markers and they sucked. They were so bad. So I wanted to give it a real effort in my growth, that I know how to use alcohol markers better now. I'm not great, I'm better. So I picked 4 colors: a green in light, a medium light, a medium dark, and then dark. And I kind of just went very slowly. So I really like how this guy turned out. This was my first big attempt at doing a huge portrait. Well, in my opinion, huge portrait in alcohol marker, and I feel on a new high from it, I guess. I'm super pleased with it. I think it looks awesome. And then I decided to do the last 4 in a medium that I have never used on a portrait before in my life. And I did paint pens, acrylic paint markers. So these ones were done in the Arrtx paint markers. I did the same method that I did before. I picked either 3 or 4 for some of them, 3 for some of them, of colors. And sometimes I tried to do 2 colors this time. So the light ones, like for this one, I did a light yellow, and then I switched to the next color on the color wheel. This one, I actually tried to do, I think they're called complementary colors, where they're opposite on the color wheel, or like close to opposite. So here is head 100. I did the same thing for him, one tone, went all out, gave him a huge piece of the page, and there we go. That is the 100 heads challenge. Technically, I did 101 on accident. All in all, I think this challenge was awesome. Even though I failed and I did it outside of the 10-day period, honestly, I don't think I could have gotten these results and this much confidence and this much growth had I rushed myself in the 10-day period. I don't know. I don't know if that's how it might be for you, but that's how it is for me. I love that I took my time with this. I'm really proud of myself for how it turned out. I do want to do another 100 heads challenge in the future. However, I don't know that I will do this 100 heads challenge in the future, so I am already dedicating myself to one more sketchbook of doing the 100 heads challenge. Anyway, I've already started gathering heads on my Pinterest page. I will link it below if you're interested. And let me know in the comments if you have done this challenge or if you have done your own 100 with your own heads. And if you have videos, leave it in the comments so we can all support each other. I think that would be really cool to see what you've done too. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.